Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to First Tuesday. I'm Jamie Prankert. I'm the Dean of the Carlson School of Management, and I'm excited to gather with you today for what was sure to be an informative, educational, and inspiring hour. Before I tell you a bit more about our featured guest today, Rick Olson, on behalf of the Carlson School, I want to thank First Tuesday's partners, our premier sponsor, Tennant Company, and our media sponsor, Minnesota Public Radio. Thanks to them. And of course, I want to offer a very special thank you to the many Carlson School of Management and University of Minnesota alumni and supporters who are in the audience today. I also want to offer a thank you to our benefactors who are here today, including our Carlson School Investors Circle members. The Investors Circle is the school's annual giving society, recognizing the school's most ardent and committed individual supporters. Welcome to you all. Okay, let me tell you a bit about Rick, today's featured speaker. Rick Olson is chairman of the board, president, and chief executive officer at the Toro Company, a leading global provider of solutions for the outdoor environment. In his role, Rick leads the $4.5 billion company and its more than 11,000 employees in developing innovative projects, technologies, and solutions to help customers enrich the beauty, productivity, and sustainability of the land. Rick became the Toro Company's president and chief operating officer in September of 2015, chief executive officer in November 2016, and chairman of the board in November 2017. Since joining the Toro Company in 1986 as a manufacturing process engineer, Rick has held several senior leadership roles, including Vice President of International and Vice President of Exmark. Rick earned a BS in Industrial Technology at Iowa State University, and in 2010, an MBA from the University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Management. Since 2018, Rick has served as a member of Minnesota Carlson's Board of Advisors. In my time as dean, he has been an important and valued voice and guide for me and for the school. I appreciate your guidance and support in that role, Rick, and for taking the time to be here today. Rick will be in conversation with a familiar voice today, Chris Farrell, senior economics contributor at Marketplace American Public Media's nationally syndicated public radio business and economic program. Chris is a senior economics contributor for Minnesota Public Radio, frequently appearing on NPR News as a contributor and guest host. He's the author of 5 books on personal finance and the economy, and we're pleased to have Chris with us today. Chris and Rick, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Gene.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion. And also, if you have questions, write them out on a card and people will look at them and then they'll bring them up here so we can add audience questions. I have a lot of questions to ask you.
Awesome, can't wait.
Okay, but let's start out. So the Toro Company founded in 1914, and back then it was the Toro Motor Company. From your perspective, when you have a company that has this history, this long history, what would you sort of highlight or emphasize out of the evolution of the company over the years?
Well, personally, I think it's kind of interesting. The Toro Company was actually born out of a technology revolution that was happening in the early 1900s. And that was the replacement of horses on farms with small general purpose tractors. So a group of Minneapolis business people got together and they wanted a piece of the action of this fast growing new opportunity. And they started the Bull Tractor Company. And the Bull Tractor Company was a fantastic company for about a year and a half. But they also started the Toro Motor Company to supply engines to the Bull Tractor Company, and that survived. That group of people actually created a new tractor just in time for a recession period in the farm industry. So had a great tractor, no place for it, and then got a call from Minnetonka Country Club, and Minnetonka Country Club said, we have a problem with the horsepower on our fairway mowers. Namely, the horses are leaving divots behind and droppings behind, and our members don't really appreciate that. And we think your tractor might be.
I can understand that, yeah.
Yeah, we think your tractor might be a great solution for this problem. So Minnetonka Country Club, the staff there, and the staff of the Toro Company and the engineers of the Toro Company came together to produce the very first mechanized, motorized piece of equipment for golf courses. And by 1925 or the late 20s, the Toro Company was the worldwide leader in golf equipment at that point, so it went quickly. What's similar about today is we're going through another series of technology transformations. The areas that we're particularly focused on is alternative power, so today it's about the transition from internal combustion engines to other sources of power, mainly battery, hybrid today, but also hydrogen, fuel cells, and so forth in the future. So that's the first one, alternative power. The second is smart and connected, inclusive of now AI. So it's really, for our professional customers, one of the challenges is finding, training, and retaining great workers. So making the product smarter, doing more of the precision work versus having that be operator skill is really important. So adding intelligence to the machine, and then tying that information together for someone that's managing something like a golf course to be able to manage it more easily. So that's smart and connected. AI is a huge accelerator in that area. And the final category is autonomous and robotics. So those are three areas that we've really focused on, among others, that we believe, and it's bearing out to be true, are extremely important, and another revolution that's happening.
All right, so talk a little bit more about AI, artificial intelligence. It's out there. Probably everybody in this room has used ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, or one of the various more consumer-facing. How does AI really enter into your operations?
I really think, first of all, we're extraordinarily excited about AI, and I see some of our AI leaders in the audience here, so they're making eye contact. But we're extremely excited about AI. We're more excited than we are fearful about it. And I divide AI applications at the Toro Company into two sections. The first is internally with our operations. And we're making use of AI extensively today to dramatically improve productivity, whether it is programming, there's thousands of lines of code for our equipment, or whether it's in our legal system, doing searches, and then creating agents for some of our key processes like innovation, product innovation, customer support, and so forth, creating internal custom agents to be able to help our team do those jobs better. So that's the internal side. On the external side is, to me, even more exciting because we have the ability to bring solutions to our customers and allow them to do things that they've never been able to do before. If I could just give you one example. So we have just introduced, or in the process of introducing, something that's tying equipment and irrigation together on a golf course. So for a golf course superintendent, those are the two most important pieces of their assets and where they spend a lot of money. And what they want to do is manage the water content of the golf course to optimize that for turf health, for optimum water usage and so forth. So by tying the equipment together, essentially if you think about a mower that's mowing a fairway, it's essentially scanning the turf every day when it does that job. And we've mounted a passive microwave antenna on the back of the machine to be able to measure the moisture in, virtually, these are billions of contact points, so you know exactly the soil moisture. That can be fed into our software, which is at least machine learning, if not AI, to allow a golf course superintendent to automatically adjust maybe 4,000 heads on a golf course to optimize the exact rate of application. The result is a huge water savings for the golf course. It's also results in much better turf health because typically overwatering turf is actually bad for it. But no golf course superintendent was ever fired for overwatering the golf course. They only get fired when it dries out. So they tend to overwater. And what you see over time is just a beautiful uniform turf resulting, and the players actually notice the difference as well. So that's just one example.
So elaborate a little more about this, because many of the people doing the AI have very highly abstract skills. But you're also getting input from people who are working with the golf course operators. Hey, here's a problem. Can you help us solve this problem? So how do you bring the different, facets of your workforce together in an era of AI?
I think it's really consistent with how we innovate and how we have innovated for 110 years. It's really the combination of knowing technical solutions and having great people that are technically oriented in combination with deep knowledge of the customers. So it's our job really to pull those pieces together to understand issues that our customers are having and pair them with technology solutions, and AI may be the ultimate.
So, so you have two major divisions. So talk first about the, what you just mentioned with the golf course, and that's in the professional services. So how is that doing?
Well, golf is doing extraordinarily well. First of all, to your point, if I polled, other than the people that I know in the audience, which is quite a few, by the way, if you asked what the Toro company is, 90% of people, if I meet them on the street for the first time, they'll say, "Oh, you make the lawnmowers and the snow throwers," and we do. And when I started in 1986, that was about 80% of the business was on the residential side. We also had this commercial business, which is golf and grounds and some related areas. Over the course of my nearly 40 years, that has flipped around. So that traditional business that people think of is about 20% of our business, and the professional side or the commercial customers are about 80%. Golf and grounds is a big part of that, and we are the worldwide market share leader both in irrigation and equipment in golf since 1925. That's been the case. And golf has never been healthier. It's the game is incredibly healthy right now. And I had a chance to speak to a group yesterday that represented the Golf Course Owners Association, and their challenge as they look forward really is capacity to play golf. There are not enough golf courses, and as they project forward, that's kind of the top issue that they're working on, is finding places for people to play. And golf is different than it was, let's say 20, 30 years ago. There's a whole parallel universe that has opened up of more kind of casual, traditional golfers would say disrespectful, but people that just want to go out and have fun versus the traditions of golf, and that's opened up a whole base that really wasn't tapped into previously. And among other things, the diversity of people coming into the game, the number of women that are playing for the first time, all of those have really driven a very healthy situation with golf right now. So it's been great for us.
So how's your golf game?
My golf game is terrible, actually. I don't play enough, and my usual rule is I only play with close friends. So if that gives you an idea.
So,
I do love to play, and I recommend that you all play as often as possible.
So, one of the major changes in the overall economic environment has been tariffs, and the imposition of tariffs, the removal of tariffs, putting tariffs back on. So how are tariffs affecting your business, and what are you doing to mitigate the impact of tariffs?
Well, it's been a real adventure. I had more hair, actually, a year ago at this time. But our approach really was to try to get ahead of the process, and even when the first discussion started to take place about tariffs last fall, we put a team together, and they've been working continuously since then to identify the tariffs, determine if they're applicable, determine the potential impact. And then early on in the year, we made some decisions of what we would do, mostly going after productivity and other offsets that we would have for what we expected. And then we did have to implement some price increases as well. And as I reported at our last earnings call, we expect by the end of the year to be whole with our margins on tariffs. So by getting to it proactively, at least with this year, we look like we're in good shape.
So if I were just to, roughly divide your business into golf and lawnmowers, I realize that's not right,
Yep,
but
that's right.
Where's tariffs having the biggest impact? Is it across the board?
Yeah, the total tariffs are in the neighborhood of about $45 million this year, and the largest portion of that is steel and aluminum. So it's really across all of our products. We import a tiny amount of those materials. Most of our steel and aluminum is melted and poured in the U.S. But even for that small portion that's imported, a 50% tariff is pretty significant for us. So it's about half of that. Then there are some reciprocal tariffs in place, and it kind of goes to miscellaneous after that.
So
it's really across the
board.
line.
So with the snow blower, the lawnmower business, where are the growth opportunities? How are you shaping the future of those businesses?
Yeah, on the traditional residential side, it's a little bit of an unusual story over the last few years, including the pandemic. That is a business that grew over about 2 decades by about 3%. So it's kind of GDP growth plus a little bit. And then we get to 2020 and the business grew by 20%. And 2021, it grew by 20+%. The following year grew by about 7%. And then the following year fell by about 20%. We did a deal with Lowe's, which kind of caused a little, probably changed the curve there a little bit, so it was a positive year. This year we'll be down like in the mid-teens, mid to high teens. So it's been an incredibly steady business and has gone through this incredible sine wave recently. So it's been one of our bigger business challenges over the last
So is the
few
goal
years.
to get it back to being a steady business?
We expect it to go back to that growth rate, but we've got to go through these kind of corrective gyrations. And it's really in the context of the economic situation where consumers are not feeling terribly confident about making big ticket item purchases. So that's a big factor that's kind of slowing that recovery. Interest rates are a factor. A good portion of those products are financed, especially the larger products. So that's probably our bigger challenge, biggest challenge at the moment. The great news is that we have done a lot of work with our portfolio over the years. So it's offset. If this is flat, you'll look at our growth this year is relatively flat. It's composed of this and this. So we're very grateful for the top side of that, which is golf and grounds, and then the rest of our professional businesses, especially strong in the underground business, which is it's a business that we got into in a huge way in 2019 with the acquisition of Ditch Witch.
Yeah.
And the major portion of that business, the underground business, is horizontal directional drills and trenchers. There's not enough time to talk about drills, and I'll probably geek out on that if we did.
Drills are fascinating.
But you could, okay, I'll do a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
But you could set up a drill on this side of the building or this side of the parking lot and go under the infrastructure here and pop up in an area like a target area of probably 3 feet by 3 feet for fiber optics or any of the utilities and so forth. And there is a huge deficit just in the existing utilities. I think, and the work that needs to be done. I think the highest number, until I traveled internationally with this conversation, the highest number I've seen is I think 20 or 30% of the water in New Orleans is lost before it gets to your tap, from the water tower to the tap. And then I spoke with somebody from Italy, and they said, "Oh, that's nothing. We're lucky if we get 50% of it there." So just some of the infrastructure is incredibly old because you can't see it. It's not as visible as other things where you see waste, but it's a tremendous deficit that's there to be addressed, and it's being addressed. And it just speaks to a very long runway for that business as we have tons of solutions to be able to solve those problems in multiple ways.
So I was exposed to this just very briefly. It was in Duluth, and there's the old Duluth press building.
Yes.
And they didn't have to close the street down. On one side of the street, there was just a little hole, and everything doing exactly what you're talking about to put the wires through
Exactly.
to the other side of the building. But the thing that they were talking about is we don't have to close the street.
Exactly, and that's really what our focus is no disruption or no dig solutions. So, even when you buy a new house, you typically have to have the sewer line inspected, and they always find a crack somehow. So then it means the backhoe comes in, you lose the tree and so forth that's in the front yard. We have solutions to be able to solve that with lining, infrared, actually UV cured resin lining and so forth, so among other solutions.
So when you're looking at, the golf business, the underground business, so is this a domestic growth story? Is it an international growth story? What's the weight on the?
Yeah, our international business is important to us. It's about 20 to 25% of our business. It's actually, as a percentage, a little bit less because of some of the recent acquisitions have been more US-based, like Boss Snowplow in Iron Mountain, Michigan, pretty much North American-based. Ditch Witch has a similar split. Some of the other acquisitions are a little bit more US-based. But international is extremely important to us. We have kind of an even split between Europe and Asia. And the core of our international business today is still golf, and followed secondly by the specialty construction and underground business. Golf is such a great international avenue for us because golf courses are really looking for the same conditions pretty much everywhere in the world. There are, broad strokes, cool season grass products and warm season turf products, and those are both represented in the US. So we have both of those products, and you can pretty much go anywhere in the world. And golf course managers, our superintendents, will be looking to duplicate the same conditions that you would see at Hazeltine in Scotland or Japan or other places.
So how vulnerable are you? And I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but taking into account climate change. And like I remember was doing sub-hosting on the Angela Davis show.
Yeah.
And, some of the resorts up north, there was no snow, right? And so their cross-country ski business was really struggling. Yeah. So, magnifying that, how does that impact you?
Yeah, a few things. First of all, that's something that we do track very closely, looking at climate change over time. It's something in my 40 years I've been aware of and personally tracked. But as a company, we're actually more probably subject to shorter duration kind of cycles. So even the snow cycle, if you look at snowfall over a long period of time for the Twin Cities, there's like a 5-year cycle, there's kind of a 10-year cycle. Those actually have a larger impact on us in the short term. And as some of the climates do change, we cover both the winter and the summer. So as seasons extend, we have coverage on the summer products as well. So climate change is something we're watching closely. It does not have as much of an immediate effect or even in the midterm effect. And as it transitions, we transition our business as well. And then just from an overall kind of strategy point, when I started in 1986, snow throwers were a huge part of the business, and snow in general for us as a company is about 10%. But it's a great business. We have a lot of innovation in that space. There is still now and will be demand for those products into the future, but it's a relatively small portion of our business.
So if you're looking at over, like, say, a 5-year investment horizon, where do you see the Toro company in 5 years? Where are the resources being concentrated?
Yeah, we see opportunities to grow in almost all of our business, so I won't say we're completely shorting any business, but as evidenced, we announced an acquisition yesterday of Tornado Infrastructure Incorporated. I haven't said that too many times, so I have to practice that. But it's a soft excavation company that's a perfect complement with our underground business.
And that means?
Ditch Witch. Well, I'll simplify. If you can imagine taking
you talked about drills. So
yeah, drills. This is equally cool, so you can be the judge. But just imagine taking a car wash wand, like a manual car wash, that's even a little bit bigger than that, and then a giant shop vac. And if you eroded the soil, you can basically just plunge the two of them down into the ground. So if you have any sensitive infrastructure, like a giant bundle of fiber optics that's running the university, gas lines, those types of things, you can do construction work around those sensitive assets without fear of damaging them or causing an explosion, et cetera.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
we consider that a good thing. And increasingly, states are actually requiring, if we're installing fiber optics, which is a big part of our business, making the equipment for that, we need to, those operators need to prove that they went under the gas line instead of through the gas line. So they will use this device until they can actually see the physical gas line underground, and they will photograph the fiber optics lines going under it as a documentation to prove that there was no problem there.
So what makes for a good acquisition? Because, I mean, business history is littered with plenty of acquisitions that didn't work out. The entrepreneurial energy gets squashed by the company, or they're different cultures and they don't mesh very well. So what makes for a successful acquisition?
I think it starts with, first of all, it's got to be attractive for us. So it has to be a good fit with our strategy. Most of our acquisitions have actually been from private companies. So it starts with building a relationship. That might take 5 years to develop a relationship where there's trust. And then typically something has to happen in the family. Like there's, in some cases, the death of the patriarch or something like that, or the business gets bigger than what they can manage. So it's got to be a combination of a great strategic fit for us and a time for the seller to sell. And then things like cultural fit, consistency of the way we do business become screeners for us. And fundamentally for us, I mean, if you want to, I actually believe our culture is a secret weapon for us because believe it or not, when a private company is selling their business, they're interested in getting a good price for it. They want to get the best possible price, but they're also concerned about what happens to the group of people that they built this business with. They're interested in what happens to the distributors that they partnered with to be able to grow the business. Oftentimes it can be in a small town, so they know they're going to go to church with the people that will still be with the company. And that's where the Toro company has had a secret weapon of our culture. And they know, and they can look at the history of our acquisitions and see what happened to those companies, see them thriving, see us supporting the communities, and that's advantage Toro.
So how do you maintain a culture? How do you support a culture?
Well, culture is why I'm at the Toro company after 39 years. I'm 39 years into my planned 2-year stay with the Toro company. I had no intention of being at a larger company. I wanted to do something entrepreneurial or buy a small company, but I thought I should take a couple years to figure out how a company actually works. And 5 or 10 years into my time at the Toro company, I said, how did this possibly happen? And the answer to myself was, it's about the culture. And it's the combination of, we are a team, a lot of people are represented in this room, that are incredibly competitive. We want to win all the time in the marketplace. And most of the markets where we participate, we are the market share leader. We do that. But we do it, we want to win, but we want to win the right way. And we want to do internally, we have a culture of excellence that really is the balance between a pure performance focus and a combination of that plus a people focus. And we believe that that creates the greatest value for all of our constituents, including our shareholders over time.
Well, that leads to a question from the audience, which is, how do you help a new employee understand the culture of your organization?
Well, it's something that we spend quite a bit of time on, and Lori Riley, our HR leader, is here. We have a lot of conversations about this. It is, first of all, they become aware of what the culture is, and you can teach and you can train and so forth, but culture is really about what people experience. And I think, I don't know what the actual number is empirically, but I think something like 70% of culture is leadership. So it's how they see their leaders lead by example, what they experience in their own experience with their supervisor or their manager. We do everything we can through communication. We've created great communication tools to pull people together to reinforce our culture. We test for culture in our engagement system, and because culture is a lot about leadership, leaders at the Toro company do not move forward if they don't represent our culture. So that's probably the biggest screening piece there. And the combination, being able to succeed and win, but do it in a way that is consistent with how we do business.
And, I don't know, 5-year, 10-year time horizon. If you look at the United States, there's not going to be much workforce growth. I mean, it's really, if you look at the baby boom generation, that was huge. You got millennials, but the labor force growth has really slowed down. So how do you see attracting the workers you want? Where are you looking for the workers that you want to join Toro?
Yeah, it's always a bit of a challenge, but we, in a given marketplace, are oftentimes, we end up being a preferred place to be employed for some of the reasons I mentioned with our culture, but also people want to be inspired by the work that they do and know that it's important. And people at the Toro company are driven by our purpose to help our customers enhance the beauty, the productivity, and sustainability of the land. We want to help our customers be successful. So if that is a residential customer, it's helping people create a beautiful place for their family to enjoy together, which was especially important in COVID. And if it's a professional customer, I mean, we make the products that are the core tools that our customers use to put bread on the table for their families. And that's a high calling for us, and we take it very, very seriously. So having a purpose, having a culture that's consistent with what people are looking for, I think those are two of the main areas. And then the last piece is we do really cool stuff. And when engineers, we can recruit engineers from the Bay Area, and they reluctantly come to take a look at us, especially in Minnesota. Sometimes that's not always a draw. But then they have a chance to look at what we're doing and using NVIDIA chips, video processors, which are really some of the secrets to how we can do some of the automation and the robots that we're introducing right now. It's like, are you kidding me? And I get to live here, and so those are some of the pieces.
Is it getting harder to find people?
It is getting harder, yeah. And I think people are concerned about the job impacts of AI and so forth. I think it may be the perfect part of the solution as we go forward with productivity that helps us leverage the maybe fewer people, but doing more work and kind of keeping up with the workforce as well.
So from your perch at the Toro company, are you seeing AI, this is going to replace a lot of your labor, and that's one way to bring about higher productivity, or do you see it more as a supplement to your labor force, which is another way of improving productivity?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the workforce long enough to see multiple waves of new technology that come along, and there's always a side discussion of how are we going to use all of this leisure time that we have and whatever it is, and we're going to be dropping down to 2-day weeks and so forth.
Yeah. When is that going to happen?
Yeah, I'm waiting for that too. My wife is waiting for that too, for me. So I fully anticipate that the bar will just get raised. So we're going to need to do, business will become more competitive. We'll need to do more. We'll be working just as hard or harder. We'll have better tools, but the overall productive output of the United States, I think, in the world is really what we're going to see. I don't think we're going to be idling people. We're going to use the opportunity to do even more.
So one of the things I think is really interesting about business is some companies successfully nurture innovation within the company. And other companies, they have some successful products, and the innovators are sidelined because those successful products may hurt the profits of what is already existing. And you know plenty of examples along those lines. So how do you nurture innovation at the Toro company?
Yeah, we have, I can't think of a situation where we've done that. So we're always looking to obsolete ourselves in the marketplace. And I think it's I think it's just part of our culture. We are so driven to innovation that we have trouble kind of pulling back on innovation versus wanting to get it out there. But innovation is just part of our culture. It's probably why people are working for the company to begin with. But we do use things like we have something called a vitality index where we measure the number of new products as a percentage. So the index is the percentage of revenue for a given business that comes from products that were introduced in the current or the prior 2 years. That needs to be above 35%, and if it's not above 35%, there needs to be a plan to get it back in that spot, because we correlate innovation with kind of declining market share over time. If it's
So where is it now?
We're right there, right about
35%.
Yep. Yes.
And what excites you when when you're looking at your company and you look at the new products, services being created? What excites you?
I'm excited about a lot of things, but in particular,
I know drills.
Drills are very. If you only knew what they do. Yeah. Okay, I have to go there one more time. The record. It happened to be our equipment on the large side, but the record drill is 2.25 miles under a river in India. These were 2 separate drills that drilled from both sides, and they found each other under the center of the river to pull a 22-inch water main under the river. So anyway, I'll go back.
No,
What was the question?
that is really cool.
Yeah, what was the question again?
What really excites you?
What excites me
what's going
is particularly, so many things. AI is one of them, but in general, I would say the technology kind of revolution that we're going through and we as a company are leading in our markets is one of the most exciting things in the categories I talked about. And, honestly, I say this from time to time, but I honestly wish I were 22 years old right now. I know people are worried about the future of business and other things. I think it's the most exciting time certainly my lifetime right now. And it's especially driven by the technology innovations. Our launching, 3 or 4 robotic platforms this year and going out to see the impact that they have with our customers is, super exciting to me. And if you could all see the things that we have behind the curtain that we're still working on right now.
So paint a little picture of us with the robotic platform. So how is this playing out for your customer?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're still, especially on the professional side, we're still at the early stages of applications of robots, but some of the applications I would speak to, we have a fully autonomous, full-size fairway mower, for example, that's fully autonomous. It just looks like the invisible person is driving the machine. We also have smaller format machines that are for multi-purpose. We have a range ball retriever. So if you're ever wondering, who would you target if not the guy that's inside of the cage? Well, they target this robot. So the shell had to be hardened because it's such a target. I would have no chance of moving or hitting a moving target myself. So that's kind of how it plays out. And it's, on the surface, it is about labor savings, so the opportunity. Almost all of our professional customers are challenged with finding high quality labor, training them, and retaining them. So anything we can do that addresses productivity, and robotics is kind of the ultimate, but also our conventional machines, anything we can do to leverage the resources that they have is extremely valuable to them.
And talk a little bit more about alternative energy resources. Now, is that mainly, we're back to lawnmowers? I mean, is that what we're thinking about, or is it broader than that?
Most of the products, certainly, we have a lot of different models and lines in utility vehicles. So, but it's across the board. One really interesting application, I think, is we have a business called the SiteWorks systems business, and the core is really compact utility loaders. So imagine a skid steer, except you stand on the back. They were originally designed as this huge productivity booster for landscape contractors, so they could park something on the street and haul materials to the back and pass through a person-wide gate, so a 3-foot gate, so small size. When we electrified them, it was really about the need some customers had for zero exhaust emissions. So it was really an emissions, environmental sustainability kind of play. In the process of doing that, we discovered a market that we didn't know existed, and that's indoor construction and demolition. So these products are finding a home in a new market that we're developing to do, incredibly productive work in demolition. So there's a lot of discussion about converting commercial properties over to apartments and so forth. You can drive a electric e-dingo onto an elevator, take it up to the 30th floor, and use it to peel carpet, tear up terrazzo, like is below our feet here, in a way that would, it's an order of magnitude of productivity, but also worker strain and safety. I had a chance to speak to one of the contractors, and he said, you were using the electric dingo, and a wall collapsed, so we had to replace the loader arm, but I'm happy to do that because that would have been a person with a sledgehammer.
So, I mean, was there like a light bulb moment when people started to realize that there was this, this different business that we could expand into? How did that come about?
I think it's just, it's the knowledge that we have with our customers, so understanding, and probably took place over conversation, and said, yeah, we're doing this work indoors, and wonder if I could try one of those.
So normally I would not ask this question, but
Okay.
I think you might actually appreciate it. As a former Toro employee, still using your dependable, high-quality products, should I now mow my lawn diagonally or 90 degrees to the curb?
I would recommend doing alternate, so every once in a while mix it up a little bit.
Exactly.
There are books where you can do the patterns if you want to duplicate the baseball fields as well.
So what was your first job at Toro?
My first job was as a process engineer at our Windham facility in Windham, Minnesota, still a flagship location for us. And I graduated from Iowa State on a Sunday. I packed up my things, took them home, and then the following Monday started at the Toro company, and that's what I've been doing since May of 1986. And as a process engineer there, it was an absolutely fantastic experience. It's a fast-paced environment. I developed an incredible love of manufacturing while I was there. I mean, how many places can you physically watch value and wealth being created? We have raw steel coming in one side at 40 cents per pound, and you can watch the collective value and the IP and the engineering and the manufacturing, all the corporate functions come together and go see that same, you can see where the steel was, but now it's orders of magnitude more valuable. So you can watch value being created. I always took great satisfaction at the end of the day thinking, did I accomplish anything? You can go back and look at a truck and there's product loaded, ready to go. So it was very satisfying for me. The other thing I just learned is, the importance, it was really my first kind of leadership lesson in the importance of involving people. I went there thinking I was this, sharp engineer that was going to show everybody what to do, and I quickly learned that it's all about, it's all about the people and engaging people to accomplish really anything, and it's especially true at the Toro company.
And along the way, were there people that helped shape your career?
Just a long string of people at the Toro company that I can't name, but most recently, my predecessor, Mike Kaufman, was an incredible mentor and example to me. Ken Melrose, I think a number of people in the audience know Ken Melrose. He really came into the company and led it back from the brink of disaster in the early 80s. We built too many snow throwers, and it didn't snow for 2 years. So I've just been really privileged to see.
That weather thing again.
It's the weather thing, yeah. We do have to deal with it. But I've just had such a privilege internally at the Toro company to be able to watch a great string of leadership and look at the impact that they had and model behavior after them.
So there's another question of the audience. With 40 years at Toro, or almost 40 years at Toro.
It's not 40 yet. But
39. What is your proudest accomplishment at the company thus far? And, well, there's a second part of the question, but I'll ask that after you answer.
I think there are there are too many things to think about, and they're not really necessarily my accomplishments, but there's the things that we have done together. My son is an engineer, and he's working with a project team now, and I got great satisfaction in together with the team launching a new product and see customers be delighted with solving problems that they had or doing something better for them. So that's one of my greatest satisfactions. More recently, I think the changes and the additions that we've made to our portfolio, so the addition of Ditch Witch and the entry into that entire market has helped us to stabilize the company. Ditch Witch, by the way, is not seasonal, it's not weather dependent, and it adds a really stable base strategically in the company. So some of those things.
And the second part of the question was, what do you want to leave as your mark or legacy?
I really don't dwell on legacy. I think the legacy I'm interested in is that we have a company that's ready to compete in the future, ready for the future, and that we have a great team here that's ready to go into the future. So there's a lot of things, that I really enjoy being a part of, but that's really what I'm interested in.
And another question is, what are a few resources that you'd recommend to someone, because we're here at a college, recommend to someone who wants to gain insight into becoming a leader?
I think it's you can't read enough about leadership, so I think a lot of popular books that come along. One thing I would say, if I have a chance right now, if you're looking for personal finance advice, I would get Mr. Farrell's books. In the 90s, I was a devotee, and I listened to Smart Money every week, and I fashioned my personal finances, which is save a lot, simple investment plan, pay off your credit cards, a few things like that. And I lived my financial life that way, and I want to tell you it works. So that was
well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That's great. Thank you. So when you're looking at the professional segment, is that where you're going to put more and more resources into? This is the driver of your growth going ahead?
It is a driver. The only thing I would say is we haven't skimped on investments in the residential business as well. So that continues to be a very important business for us. But we are probably biased towards the professional side investment. An area I didn't talk about is our water business. So the irrigation, adjacent to the golf business, but we have a extremely exciting opportunity just with the impact on sustainability in our micro irrigation business. So it's a really nice business for us. We participate in a small kind of slice of the overall micro irrigation business, but it's the very precise, very highly engineered application of water for very high value products. So it's kind of everything you would see on a salad bar, but you can make a great living on 40 acres of strawberries in California, and that's a very good living. So very high value products, and they want to very precisely apply the water, not only for saving water, it's about 90% efficient versus traditional methods that might be 50% or less efficient, but also to control the crop consistency, and all of the inputs to that crop are extremely important. Water is number one.
Yeah, and water is also, if you're looking ahead, one of the resources that we really have to worry about, scarcity, being more efficient with our water usage. So for that business, is your main customer farmers?
The main customers would be growers, yes.
Growers, yeah.
But it's interesting, there's a crossover now as well. There's a lot of experimentation done to do subsurface microirrigation for golf courses. So there are a number of pilot projects where the tees in some areas are completely irrigated extremely efficiently with underground irrigation that is related to that business. So that's a crossover area.
And with this micro irrigation, are there opportunities overseas, or is that mostly here?
It is an international business. It is everywhere where those kind of high value crops are growing, we're there.
Yeah. So, where else in terms of, so water is so critical Do you see this is going to continue to be just a major being efficient about water?
It is. One thing to just realize is where water stressed areas today were already water stressed, and they're getting more water stressed. So the Southwest, that's a desert. So anything you're doing there is something beyond what it was originally. And also water difficulties are very local. So it's hard. We can save water here. It doesn't necessarily help people in Arizona. So we really need solutions that are specific where the issues are taking place. We introduced a line of extremely efficient spray systems that control droplet size. And I was speaking in Germany, and I noticed that nobody was that enthused. And afterwards, I said, it didn't seem like they really cared about this. They have too much water here. That's one of their biggest issues. They rarely use their irrigation, and they usually try to figure out how to get the water off of the surfaces. So water is it's more specific to areas where it's already stressed in many cases.
So one of the things I'm always interested in is supply chain. And if you go from sort of COVID to tariffs, supply chains have been under a lot of stress. So, have you adjusted, have you made adjustments to your supply chains over this period of time?
We have. A lot of the work that took place was after the kind of 2016, 17, 18 tariff things that were happening. So we did reduce our exposure to especially China, which is now maybe 3% of our components now come from China. That was extremely helpful as we got into round 2 of the tariffs, that we had done some of that positioning. So we have a great integrated supply chain team. They're constantly looking strategically at not only searching out low cost, but that in balance with the risks and other factors, availability, lead times, and so forth. So we're always making optimized decisions.
And from your perspective, how are you looking at, are you facing a lot of price pressures? How are you looking at sort of the inflation environment from the perspective of the Toro company?
Yeah, the COVID period was the period of probably the greatest inflation that I've seen in my career. So if you take that 4-year period roughly, our costs of our inputs went up by about 25%. So that is something that we're still dealing with. I think across many businesses, consumers ultimately are the people that are feeling that. So we work hard on productivity. We have initiatives to specifically go after cost improvement to be able to stay competitive, but also provide products that are
Was this like the AM? What's it called? The AMP?
The AMP program
initiative that I read about.
Homework, yeah. It's we're all focused on productivity improvements all the time, but in particular, this is a program called AMP, which stands for Amplifying Maximum Productivity. And we've committed to $100 million of run rate savings by the end of 26, and we're on track to do that or exceed it. And when you talk about culture, we coupled up that very public program that we talk about with our investors with our employee initiative. And there are a number of things that every employee needs to do, like make a productivity commitment, find productivity improvement opportunities in their area to implement. And if we're successful in reaching our goals, there is a equivalent pay of days of pay, of payout reward at the end of that. So we try to keep everybody focused, myself included, and put those things together, and we're making tremendous progress.
And then last question, because we're hitting our time. I see you nodding over there.
Timekeeper.
But I'm curious when you said, if you could be a young person, then again, this is an exciting time. So, we're at a university environment, the Carlson School. What would you say to the students and the graduate students where, they're being hit by so many changes that are going on in our economy and society?
I think it's just, get out there and, work on solutions to some of the problems that you're reading about. You're gonna be the solution. So soak up the learning that you have at the university, and it will help you to be enabled to be a problem solver that will carry us into the future.
Well, this has been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to you both. It's been a really wonderful conversation. I have many more questions about drills that I'm sure I'll have for you. Yeah, fascinating, not boring. Thank you to you both. Before we wrap up today, I have some exciting announcements for our next 3 First Tuesday events. So on December 2nd, we're pleased to welcome Gunjan Kadia, President, CEO, and a member of the Board of Directors of U.S. Bancorp. That's our next event and the final of calendar year 2025. And then to start 2026, we have a special edition of First Tuesday happening on February 10th. Yes, don't let this blow your mind, but it is the second Tuesday of the month, where we'll have Alex Rodriguez, co-owner, and Matt Caldwell, CEO of the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx. And then on April 7th, we'll welcome Bob Frenzel, the chairman, president, and CEO of Xcel Energy, to First Tuesday. All 3 of those conversations should be informative, engaging, and definitely worth your time. So I hope to see you here again in each of those months. And with that, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.